Without enchantment, Iris can't do anything and is compelled to remain outside the institute. In the interim, Sherry tweaks the curio and is prepared to head into the passages. Be that as it may, before they step into them, Sherry considered the passing of her mom to be a kid. Lutheran support her, expressing her mom was an incredible specialist and proposed to take and raise Sherry. As Lutheran upheld her mom's exploration, not entirely set in stone to reimburse him. Sid lets Sherry head into the passages B. The faction knight asks for what reason is Rex taking that long. A portion of the fear-based oppressor then begins shooting the understudies for the sake of entertainment, yet Rose tells the understudies to do nothing as without wizardry they won't have a potential for success. Sherry arrives at the assembly hall and seeing the faction knight holding the Eye of Insatiability, she activates her curio and debilitates the enchanted impeding field. At that time, Rose assaults one of the psychological oppressors. Expressing their sorcery is back and the understudies begin retaliating. As the battle begins, Sid comes from the rooftop with other Shadow Nursery individuals and draws in the psychological oppressors. The Religion Knight leaves, yet initiates a framework that influences the hall and the remainder of the school to burst into flares. Iris at long last takes action, however sees the fearmongers are dead and the understudies are outside and alright. She asks Rose what occurred and Rose makes sense of that once their wizardry was back an association called Shadow Nursery came and killed the fearmongers, who were likewise calling themselves Shadow Nursery. Sherry couldn't see her dad at the amphitheater and marvels where is he as she attempts to get away from the fire. The faction knight consumes a few books. Sid shows up and asks why Lutheran is dressed that way. The Religion Knight eliminates his cap. Uncovering he is without a doubt Lutheran and considers how Sid knows that, yet Sid states it was clear from the second he saw him. Sid asks why he did this. Lutheran makes sense of that once he arrived at the highest point of the sword fighting scene. However soon he ended up being debilitated. He effortlessly lost the greatness he contended energetically to accomplish and began looking through a method for relieving his sickness, and tracked down expected in a specific curio. He supported Sherry's mom research and ultimately found the antique he yearned for. Nonetheless, Sherry's mom expressed the Eye of Eagerness was risky and needed to give it to the public authority for care. What's more, never acknowledged it and proceeded with her mom's exploration. Sid contemplates whether Lutheran involved Sherry for his narrow-minded reasons and he affirmed. Sid then makes sense of he could do without Sherry and her mom, however propose they start before another person comes. Sid and Lutheran then, at that point, face one another. However in a moment Lutheran slices Sid and he falls through the window. After a second, Shadow comes. Having experienced major areas of strength for width, Lutheran promptly noticed that he realizes he is at impediment against Shadow. Not having any desire to sit around, he takes out the Eye of Insatiability and the Control Unit relic and makes sense of that when you consolidate them, their actual worth shows. As he does, he begins spilling over with enchanted energy and feels renewed. Lutheran then begins going after Shadow, in any case. Shadow effectively impedes his assaults without moving from his spot. Lutheran chooses to quit fooling around and jumps at Shadow, however he winds up cut by him. Enraged, Lutheran actually keeps on going after Shadow and makes sense of that he ensured Shadow Nursery are faulted for this and they will be all pursued by everybody. Shadow views that as humorous and makes sense of that something little as this won't end his association. Which isn't great or wickedness, however strolls on its own way. Shadow is fine taking all the responsibility for all wrongdoings, yet expresses that won't change anything and they will keep on doing what they should. Shadow then incapacitates Lutheran and continues cutting his appendages. He then reviews how Lutheran expressed he killed Sherry's mom and cuts him the same way and kills him. At that time, Sherry shows up and sees her dead dad and begins crying once again his body. Shadow takes note of it's better on the off chance that he doesn't inform her regarding her mom and simply leaves. Shadow is named as foe to the realm and is needed for mass homicide, abducting, pyrocrime, and burglary. Gamma tells Alpha that Shadow states he will happily acknowledge the responsibility for all violations, yet that won't change anything and they will continue to do what they should. Alpha idea they represented honorableness. However, Shadow doesn't appears to view it as such and they should satisfy his purpose. She advises Gamma to gather the accessible 7 shadows. The Foundation gets shut for a previous summer break. Sherry expresses gratitude toward Sid for his assistance a day or 2 ago. She lets him know that she chose to go concentrate abroad, in Laogas. She wants to follow through with something, but can't do it right now with her insight and furthermore has no great explanation to remain here any longer. She wished to get to realize Sid better. Yet Sid tells her they can do that next time. Prior to leaving, he asks her what she wants to do. After a snapshot of quiet, she lets him know it is confidential.